Good evening, everybody. How are you all doing? Can you let me know if you're hearing me okay? It's a bit of an echo going on. I'm just going to get rid of this echo. Okay, just one sec. Okay, is that better? With this, I'm still hearing an echo. Let me try to fix this. One sec. Okay, how are we doing now? Still hearing two voices. One sec. Sorry about this, guys. Is that any better? Are we just hearing one voice now? BS detector, is it a bit clearer now? I could hear a really bad echo, but I think it's fixed now. You can just let me know. Okay, great. Just gonna wait for a couple more people to hop on. I'm just gonna send a link to a few people. Great, D Irish, thank you so much. You can hear it, that's great. Okay, so the echo stopped, thank goodness. Okay, so this evening we are going to take a bit of a deeper dive into all the bashing of a murder victim. What is it all about? Why has it been happening? Has it ever happened in a case before to such a degree? And we're going to be investigating the trolls, the haters, the hate groups, and basically just catching up on the chat here. I'm just going to send a couple of links to people. Okay, where are we? Okay, so I'm not sure what you guys are thinking. There's been quite a lot of drama across the different channels. We had the huge hype about the 35C, which now seems to be not happening. So what do you guys think about that? Lana seems to have been sidelined, as have many before. And I'm really going to try to share something with you. Just going to see if I can do this. Just bear with me 1 second. Okay. Just bear with me 1 sec. Just seeing if I can. Okay. Let's just have a look here. Bear with me 1 second. Okay. So D Irish, it stems from the Watts, in my opinion. Honey Kissed, hello. Murphy's Law, totally agree. That narrative has been pushed by the Watts. Yeah, absolutely. Just going to make sure all these volumes are down on all my other devices. Bear with me a second. We won't have any feedback coming through. Okay. Okay, guys, so there's a few. Hey, Crazy Crime Chick, how are you feeling? Hope you're feeling a lot better. I've been thinking of you. BS Detector. Yeah, so basically we had KK and then Lana, and now both of them seem to be on hiatus, or we're waiting to see what's gonna happen there. I was actually really hoping there was an option to share my screen with you guys. Just checking what I can do here. Okay, so this evening I have given this live a little title, and it's The Misery Merry-Go-Round. I'm not quite sure who came first, who jumped on the ride first, or who started it up, but it's literally for 2.5 years, it's been spinning, and it's really, really hard to get off. And somebody is driving this machine, this ride, and it's pretty macabre and pretty scary. So basically, I really would love you guys to jump in the chat with your thoughts and opinions and ideas. And I'm just going to sort of talk you through. I've been doing a little bit of research today. I was really hoping I was going to be able to share my screen with you, but for some reason it's not allowing it. But what I talk about, I'm sure you will all know by the pictures what I'm gonna talk about. You'll remember these. They're all quite memorable things. Okay, so we need to go back to the very start, back to August and 2018, and these horrific murders took place, and people started to be obsessed with this case from day one. Absolutely obsessed. People were forming opinions. And obviously, with social media being all over this, people dived straight in, and they discovered that Shanann, the actual victim, she had a very open, huge digital footprint, very prolific Facebook, and part of her job, she posted extremely regularly. So people started to analyze, and I think what was driving them is, how could this happen? You know, how could this happen? This seemingly perfect family next door had all ended up annihilated. So I think people went into kind of defense mode and were thinking, oh my goodness, you know, how could this woman and her children have been slaughtered? You know, what was behind this? So I think that's why people dived in, and immediately people were making judgments and commenting, drawing their own opinions. And there's been a lot of research on this. Some people think that it's a kind of a safety mechanism. So you analyze the victim and you kind of think to yourself, okay, well, I'm not like that, so my husband or partner or whatever won't end up killing me. So it goes back to all those horrific accusations when somebody would be attacked and they would blame the woman for her dress, you know, oh, she was wearing a short skirt or whatever. It goes back to that kind of victim bashing, but I've never really seen it to such an extreme as in this case. And diving deep, what has been really important is the role of the Watts family in this whole circus that it's now become. If we go back to these scenes in the courtroom on the day of sentencing, then I'm sure we can all picture the family, Cindy and her husband, standing and making their speech, which was supposed to be a victim for the victims of the case, and Cindy literally turning and stating that she would forgive her son. Okay, I've just 1 second, guys. I've just had a tip from somebody who's kindly trying to help me, just how I can share this screen. So let me just quickly see if it's going to work. Just 1 second. Yeah, I'm not sure why it's not happening for me. Yeah, guys, I'm not getting this option, so I'm going to have to look into that for the next one, unfortunately. But thank you so much for that tip. Okay, so we had we had the mother of Chris Watts saying that she literally forgave him and they loved him no matter what. The next photo that I'd like to bring to your mind is Mr. Chris Watts himself, sitting there with the odd tear running down his cheek. And this is a mother who judged him his whole life and didn't forgive him no matter what when he decided to get engaged or get married or move. There were actually periods when they didn't speak for several months. So that was quite a surreal speech that she gave that day. And I'm just wondering if this started the whole carousel of horror. People were thinking, oh my goodness, you know, what is going on with these families? Because the Rusaks had kind of been quite gracious and said that how much they had loved Chris when he was part of the family before the dreadful murders. And then I came across a message that Cindy sent to somebody involved with one of the YouTube platforms. And I'll just read it out to you. I'm completely broken that Chris will never see the outside world again. I told him early on, she will ruin your life. So did Jamie. We could see something others didn't see. She was a compulsive liar, a narcissist, and unstable. There is something else, but that's up to Jamie to tell. So that was quite wow. Don't hold back there, Cindy, with your thoughts. As we all know, Shanann and her mother-in-law never ever got on. She seemed to have problems with the family from when they first met, the first ever cook-up, the engagement party. Obviously, the family didn't attend the actual wedding. The next, I'm sure you will all remember this. This is kind of what really got me into the case. The interview with Cindy when she is literally snarling as she is talking about her daughter-in-law and sort of telling, let's just see if I can get this to come up. Sorry, bear with me. And literally telling everybody what she really thought of her. And I think some of the hilarious charges were that Shanann had called Chris a bit of a skater boy for the way that he dressed and he put too much product in his hair. Yeah. They were kind of the worst things that Cindy could come up with in that interview. But yeah, that kind of snarl got me hooked to this case. Let's just see here. Yeah. So BS detector, absolutely. Even if you were having issues with the daughter-in-law, most mothers would make an effort for the sake of their son. Yeah, and then the Irish just goes to show she's blamed Shanann for her own murder. Okay, so look. So yeah, we're always going to remember that interview. That's when I first started to really dive into the whole dynamic with the Watts family to find out what was going on. Another picture that you guys may remember is one of Chris's sister, Jamie Watts. It's kind of a girl gang, her friends. In the picture, we have Mel and Kelly and also Anna. It's been circulated on all of social media, so it's a picture. And I'm just looking at this picture, and these guys, I think they can just absolutely see how they would not immediately gel with Shanann. They just seem to be, you know, different kind of girls who would be into different kind of things that Shanann was into. And I just wonder if she struggled when she was going into their kind of environment, mixing with those kind of people. So I think there could have been tensions there from day one. Anna, who I just mentioned, she actually went on to become one of the famous pen pals. Chris has had several of those, and they come, they go. they're sent out with a message, and then they all seem to get discarded one by one. I think Anna's totally removed herself now. Apparently she ended up with getting some threats and things turned quite nasty for her. But she was a pen pal with Chris for a while, and she got to visit him as well. So yeah, she became quite involved. She was somebody, I think, who actually interested Chris in religion for the first time. Yeah, we've got Amy here. Cindy's complaints about Shannon are pretty are petty. Absolutely, my goodness, if that's the worst she could say on national TV. So we've got this dynamic of the family speaking ill of the dead, speaking ill of their own daughter-in-law and sister-in-law. That's just such a surreal thing to be happening. Victim bashing by the victim's own in-laws. And then what seemed to come next is all the content creators jumped on this bandwagon because there was quite a lot of leverage. It became quite cool to smash Shanann's name because people love to dive her Facebook and her videos and analyze it second by second. One of the most famous creators for her dislike, I would call it, dislike of Shanann is Critical K. And around 2 years ago, she streamed a live Shanann Watts, a very unlikable victim. So at the time, she had about 17,000 subscribers. So quite a lot of people got to see her kind of messaging, and it was really stirring up all the hate. And on the back of this, more and more hate groups set up and things like this. Also, we're seeing the family influence. There was a guy who actually became a best-selling author, Nick Vanderleek, and he has a blog, True Crime Rocket Science. Some of you guys may be familiar with him. And he seemed to be infiltrated with the Watts propaganda. I had to stop sort of following him because he became so anti-Shanann in everything he was writing. He's supposed to be this huge professional author, but I found that all of his posts were becoming so biased that yeah, I had to stop speaking to him. Just catching up on the credits here. Yeah, absolutely. So BS detector, how could anyone put something out like that? Absolutely. For hits, that's the only reason. To make money, to cause controversy, to make a name for herself, and for hits. One of the most shocking things I think I've ever seen was a group came along and they were called the Accused Group because they seriously do not believe that Chris Watts is guilty. And that was literally like a sewer of hate. I was part of the group for a short while just to kind of try to get an understanding of what was going on and what motivated these haters. And there was a visual that got posted of somebody, like a cartoon really, looking quite innocent until you look further into it. So a person holding a pot of pills, and on the label it said hard to swallow pills. And then in the next frame, there's a person with tablets in their hands and the caption, Shanann killed her girls. So they're basically saying, you know, making that accusation. That I found that group to be absolutely horrific. That was one of the milder ones. They would judge Shanann's eyebrows and they would comment on her home decor, and the most obnoxious, hateful comment would get the most likes. So it became quite competitive, really, a bit of a sport, a bit of a game. Then we have the famous J for J. She runs the J for J Justice YouTube. She was part of the Accused Group for a while, and basically she made some outrageous posts. This is describing a beautiful murdered little girl, and her comment, Bella is kind of odd. Bella is kind of odd. I mean, just let that sink in. This goes to show that there is no barrier with these kind of people, and she's supposed to be somebody who fights for justice. She goes on to say, like, she follows what her sister does a lot. Usually it's the other way round. I think she was slightly autistic or something. I mean, it's nobody's business, and autism is a beautiful thing for many wonderful children, but to make a judgment on a child you don't know, it isn't her place, in my opinion, to be making those kind of calls. Let's just see what we're thinking here. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm seeing Amy. Yes. Absolutely. Wow. My sister and father were Cindy. Gosh, that's terrifying. Where are we now? My husband, all of my friends and ex's family still love me, but I've seen friends go through this. Yeah, unfortunately, it's very common, isn't it? The breakdown of the families when a son or daughter decides to marry a partner that the family don't feel quite suitable. Okay, let's move on. So yeah, so that was the charming comments that Jennifer. She also, there was a lot of chat at the time that they were accusing Shanann of being high on drugs. So she says here, wow, she is so high. A coke addict called, they want their glazed eyes back. Yeah, they're the kind of comments in this hate group. Moving forward, we're now going to be going to the Dodge confession, which caused absolute pandemonium and shockwaves through the whole community and fandom of Chris Watts. Chris actually told his family the day before this was going to go live and be made public by law enforcement. He actually contacted his family so they would be ready for the news. And Critical K hosted a live. It's had 50,000 views to date. It was titled Bombshell. We have the Chris Watts confession. And it was a live with Jamie Watts' best friends at the time, which was Mel and Kel. They actually had a little YouTube channel together for a time. So they were there, and they'd been authorized by the family to speak, and they had this confession as an exclusive to discuss with Critical K what Chris was going to be publicly stating about what he actually did. So this is the first time that he actually admitted to killing the children in that horrific detail that he went into, the disposal, everything. So yeah, that was all announced live as a bombshell news. So we're seeing here that these have always been these kind of spokespeople for the family. So it's not Cindy who's coming forward after the sort of initial interviews and things like this. They're more sending out friends of the family, confidants of the family. So that was one of the biggest with Critical K. I'm not sure if you guys remember, there's another content creator called Miss Mensa. She actually believes that Chris Watts was an abused spouse and that Shanann was mentally unstable. That's been her charge. She's had her YouTube channel taken down a couple of times because people have kind of reported it for hate speech. Anyway, Chris Watts' mother gave an exclusive interview to this Miss Mensa character, and it was talking about her love for her grandchildren, and that was quite unbelievable in the community that Cindy would be speaking to this person, Miss Mensa. Do you guys know her? Let's have a look in comments. So you're aware of her, the kind of things that she's always been saying. Let's just have a look here. So what's the Irish? Yeah, absolutely. This totally sums it up. Bella truly was a beautiful, sensitive soul. How could anyone say such a thing? Yeah, Amy's confirming my thoughts. She's nuts. Yeah. So she has this. She gives lives when she's talking about how Chris Watts was abused. We then go on. What happened with when all the creators started to talk about the negative side of this case is that all of this negativity and hate then started to filter through the comments. And this is just one random comment that I found. I'll read it to you because it's quite shocking, and I don't know where these people find this information. In the very beginning, there was a friend or family member that has said this happened when Shanann slammed CC into the wall and Chris had to intervene. There used to be videos on Shanann's page from around the same date that showed a patch of the wall that had been plastered over or fixed. There were some of the other videos that were deleted, as well as pictures right after the murder went down, so she wouldn't be painted in a bad light. There used to be tons more incriminating things on her page than there is now. Sorry, incriminating, if I can speak properly. That's just one example. I found dozens and dozens, some much worse. But where do these people get this information? That, I mean, how does this kind of hate spread? And we've seen it ourselves, I'm sure, many of us. But these people, where are they getting this information? That there were some images removed by the family for privacy reasons, and also somebody with friend access to Shanann, a family member or a close friend, also leaked some of her private photos that she hadn't actually made public. So there was actually that was going on as well. Yeah, BS detector. Oh my days, these people need help. Yes, they certainly do. I always imagine if it was my family member, or to see such horrific, yeah, the mind is just blown. So we've all seen so many wonderful photos of Shanann with her daughters. She was a very hands-on mother. Thank goodness those girls had a final 6-week holiday when they got to attend fun fairs and meet Summer Santa and just have an absolute blast, go to the beach. Every day there seemed to be some fun. So the charges that she was never with her children, well, there were 6 whole weeks when she was with them every day. There's one huge thing that really annoys me the most, okay? And it's the way that Shanann is judged for her parenting. One huge area that people love to comment is about the children's sleep patterns, okay? So this seems to be something they cannot move on from. I mean, at the end of the day, the way Shanann and Chris chose to raise their children is nobody's business apart from them. Shanann was not a single mother. There were 2 in the marriage. I mean, Chris, we've seen him in many videos attending the girls, putting them to bed. I mean, he was part of it. So I don't know why Shanann is the only one who ever gets criticized. But Shanann made a post. This was after they had returned from North Carolina, the 6-week holiday, and she was then going to be getting ready to go to Arizona that final weekend. And, you know, for all these charges that she sat around all day. I mean, she obviously did all the laundry, the cleaning of the house, which was always so immaculate. She went food shopping, and literally she said that the girls were so tired running around, exhausted from their holiday, that they actually put themselves to bed. She said here, they literally said, we're going to bed. They put themselves to bed, rain machines on and all. They were obviously exhausted from traveling and playing. So basically, she's just obviously speaking about Thrive, but she was saying the old me would have lived out of a suitcase for 1 to 2 weeks till it was empty again. And all of this while I'm 4 months pregnant. So basically, she's given an example here when the children actually wanted to go to sleep. So I wanted to look a bit more into this. I don't know about in the US or the other countries, but in England, we have the National Health Service where a lot of parents birth their children. So in the last figures that were released, there were over 591,000 deliveries. That was up to 2019 to 20. The most common method of delivery was spontaneous. This website is looked at and consulted by a lot of new mothers. Okay, so toddlers 1 to 2 years old, which is what CC was when she was being so harshly judged, recommended sleep 11 to 14 hours, including naps. And then children more of Bella's age, 10 to 13 hours, including naps. Okay, so I'm not sure if that would be in line with the US, but that's the NHS Britain, which is obviously a very hugely followed program, and all doctors would recommend this to the new mothers. So we know from many posts that the children would get up, especially CC would wake up early and get in the parents' bed. And we know from Chris himself that he was up super early to work out in the basement before he went to work. So, you know, this was a family who were early risers. We've seen posts when Shannon has been out of the door 6:45 in the morning. So of course the children needed to go to bed early. So this 6:30 p.m. bedtime being such an outrage is really something I can't get my head around. What do you guys think about that? Have you seen these kind of posts when people are literally just criticizing every aspect about parenting? Yeah, Shanann had a great routine, homemade dinners or the home food. Yeah, exactly. BS detector. All mine used to sleep well at night and had a nap until about 3. They're all different. Yeah, absolutely. They're all different. So how these people can sit in judgment, I really don't know. So, okay, this post was circulated on many groups, and it seemed to get a lot of traction. So I'm just going to read it out to you. I am a close family member of Chris Watts. He is my cousin, and I watched him grow into the man he is today. I was added here to set the record straight. A friend asked me to come and tell his story. Shanann was not what you think. She was condescending, rude, manipulative, a snarky, evil witch. I witnessed it firsthand. She would constantly tell Chris to kill himself in front of the children. She blamed him for everything, even things out of his control. They had a very unstable, unhappy home, and she was the cause. None of this is an excuse for what he supposedly has done. I wholeheartedly believe she had him set up and framed in an attempt to run away after getting rid of her kids out of the equation. Sadly, she was killed before she was brought to justice. I'm breaking my silence, and I'll be going to the news tomorrow to speak of it later. You heard it here first. This received over 700 comments, many in support and believing every word of this. So some random hater can make a post and suddenly it gets spread all around Facebook and YouTube. That was one of the most shocking ones that I've read. But I mean, who was putting these kind of things out there? Why would anybody have so much hate for a stranger. You know, this seems to me to be quite vindictive when it gets to this level. I mean, nobody ever went to the press. There was no cousin of Chris ever speaking in this way. But yeah, the level of hate is just so extreme. Just it really is. It is pretty shocking. The next big development was when there were rumors that Cindy was collaborating with an author by the name of Kathleen Houston with a book called All My Broken Pieces. Some of the chapters were leaked onto Reddit, and there was actually quite a lot of controversy about this. One of the family spokespeople, Mel, she actually went on J is for Justice, and they spoke about this. She actually read the first chapter of the book, and there was quite an outrage about this book that Cindy was going to be further trashing Shanann, and the book was never completed, or there were never any extra chapters leaked. But did you guys read some of the chapters? I think it got to about 4 or 5 chapters. Let's just have a look at the comments here. Yeah, I'm just looking at some of the comments here. This really sums everything up for me. I can't wrap my head around the venom and hate towards a dead person. It's a reflection of them. Yeah, BS Detector. I've seen Kathleen on Critical K. Yes, she was on there quite recently. Yeah, so this was the same author. So yeah, we never saw more. We never saw more of the book. And then this gentleman I mentioned before, this Nick Vander Leek, True Crime Rocket Science. He then released a statement when Kathleen states that Cindy never was part of the book. So I'm not sure if it was some sort of damage limitation or whatever. So that was all quite surreal. But it seemed, the level of detail, it seemed as if Cindy was providing the words. She knew all this author knew all the backstory. So I'm not quite sure why they ever tried to deny it. But yeah, the book never saw the light of day. Obviously, somebody advised Cindy probably to get the book pulled because it was never physically published and it was never completed. Did any of you ever see that? I think it was definitely leaked on Reddit. Yeah, this is what's motivating me. Honeykissed, so horrible for the Rusaks, heart crushing. Imagine what they've gone through. I mean, it's just horrifying what they've had to endure, and they do get to hear everything. They do get to hear what's being said. I've seen them in comments in some of the really horrific channels. They do get to see and hear. Okay, let's look through now. Okay, so the next big thing that happened was when these chapters were leaked, there were a lot of sort of mainstream publications. So there's just one headline here: leaked chapters of a book about Chris Watts' crimes, reportedly written by his mum, cause upset. There have been leaked transcripts of a book that is said to have been written by Chris Watts' mother, Cindy Watts, and people are not happy about it. So yeah, they were the kind of headlines that were coming around the book. So that's probably one of the reasons that it got pulled. At the same time as well, many people believe that Cindy was trying to kind of bring her book, because it was exactly the same time as Sherilyn Cadle was releasing Letters from Christopher, when we had this author who had visited Chris in prison and taken notes, and he'd written letters to her, and there was a huge amount of controversy about it, but sadly the family fell out with Sherilyn around this book, and it was published, and obviously her second book has been released this year, which actually did include Chris's actual letters, so we could read for ourselves, and if there were any additions we could sort of see his actual letters. So that was quite interesting. I mean, whatever you think of her, she did gain access to Chris, and he did write her those letters. You know, that hasn't been disputed. Some of the additions were things that Chris had verbalized to her, so she kind of added it, but the actual letters have been seen now in his own hand, so we know that they actually did exist. This is not exactly in the exact time frame, but another huge development in this case that had such a massive negative impact was we had this new hugely hyped YouTube channel, Christopher Watts Revelation in the Reckoning. There were trailers put out about this huge revelation that was going to be unveiled, and I remember tuning in to watch this with so much anticipation. And it was back to the first confession that dreadful Shanann had killed the children and Chris Watts had killed her in a rage. For some reason, this creator generated so much interest, and she has now about 10,000 subscribers, and she's famous for her exceptionally long live 6 hours and things like this, talking about the case in great detail, talking about her theories. And I'm not a fan. She cherry picks to fit her agenda, and yeah, I'm really pleased that she seems to be off the case at the moment. She's still talking about it on her own website, but as far as the Watts are concerned, they seem to have broken the relationship, and they're no longer collaborating together. Let's just catch up with your comments. Yeah, Zoe Rose, I don't mean to be disrespectful to anybody, but I think it's really important, if you are going to come out as a supporter of Shanann to the level that I am, I needed to deep dive, you know, the whole case and not be blinkered. I had to sort of analyze, because I don't know any of the main players in this case. I'm forming my own opinion. That's all, of course, that's all it is, just an opinion. But looking at the actual case and the events that have happened, I'm just trying to actually bring you things that have actually happened, instead of just saying, well, I think, or this. These things of what I'm talking about, I've actually got the receipts, as they call them. Yeah, going down. Yes, exactly. I try to keep my lives, you know, like last week was 1 hour. Everybody's busy. We've all got lives. There's another huge creator going live, I think, today as well. You know, people are busy. We have a lot of a lot of stuff going on. Families, children, dogs, partners. You know, I haven't got time for 6 hours. I've never watched a long live. I'm just not interested, to be totally honest with you. So yeah, so those Kim's revelations, I'm still waiting for her to reveal something, to be totally honest with you. I learned nothing from her, absolutely nothing. I mean, it was as if we went back to the interview when Chris first blamed Shanann. You know, it's like stepping back 2 years. So yeah, I'm still waiting, Kim, for your big revelation. There was a really interesting leak on Reddit this year when everybody was trying to guess who this Kim lady actually is, and all these horrific posts made. People just with a similar name were being labeled as the real Kim Kaufman, as I think her name was then, and they were nothing to do with the case. They weren't this person, but somebody on Reddit actually did a really, really great expose, and we've discovered that Kim had a wife and son, and they cleverly matched their jewelry, and they were the characters who were in the reenactment of her first ever live, when she was explaining how the children had been smothered by Shanann. So that was on Reddit last year. The next thing that was really shocking for me was Kim became official. She actually became official. She went live with a statement from Ronnie, and in this statement he said that they fully supported Kim. So she was then able to take that forward, and the next thing we know, she actually taped a telephone conversation with Chris Watts himself, and this mild little man stood up and lectured us and told us we should only listen to Kim because he didn't want us hearing anybody else's opinion, just Kim's, because he didn't like it. It wasn't what he wanted. It wasn't what he authorized. Okay, I'll keep my language. I don't want to get kicked off YouTube. I'll keep my thoughts on him out of this one. The next big thing when it comes to development, so we've got Kim now, this very important figure in the case, with a view that she was literally speaking on behalf of Chris. So he had authorized her. I want you to listen to Kim. This gave her so much authority, and obviously she then became really quite widely followed and quoted, and she was starting to generate a lot of interest. People were watching her lives just to find out what she was going to be saying about Chris, what he was revealing. I mean, again, I don't think there was anything that came as a surprise, but it was a surprise that he endorsed her and that the family were backing her. The next thing that happened, we suddenly start to see a lot of information about this creator called Lana. She was actually, back in the day, part of the accused group, and I think she would always be remembered for the shazam. I think she would class them skits. That's one word for them. She has recently made a public apology in her last broadcast, but I'm not sure if people will ever forgive her for that. She's tried to say at the beginning that it was just a bit of a rise out of Thrive. So she was mocking Thrive, this ridiculous MLM, and the impact it had on this family. But yeah, people didn't really fall for that. So just in her recent live, she did actually make an apology, and I think she realized that she had to do that, really, if she's ever gonna move forward. She was then deeply involved with J4J on her Justice podcast, and she was seen in quite a few of those lives. What do you guys think about all of those skits? I mean, what was your initial reaction when you first saw them? I mean, how did they make you feel? I'm just going to wait for the few of you guys. So there was one little get out that Lana tried to use. There was this famous photo of Shanann, and next side by side was somebody dressed as Shanann for Halloween. It was when Shanann was wearing the long white tassel earrings and a grey off the shoulder grey and white top, and this character was everywhere. It was stated that it was Lana. It actually wasn't Lana. It was dressed up in that outfit. Lana had just posted it as a sort of Halloween greeting to her followers. but obviously it was one of her friends, but it wasn't actually Lana. So when Lana says it wasn't me, she's referring to certain parts of this whole shazam. But yeah, that wasn't actually her in that just that one photograph. The next thing that we were seeing was Lana was trying to drop this shazam. She still used to go into character sometimes, but on the lives with Jay, she was now data expert. And what I want to try to discuss here is the influence these creators have on their followers. I'd never heard of data being anything to do with this case. I mean, I'd never heard of it spoken about before, but suddenly this woman who had a private Facebook group with about 70 or 80 members was the spokeswoman on the case, and she had these binders that she carried around with her and a whiteboard with all this information about data and how it proved certain things about the case. And what I started noticing in all the comments in the different groups was people were starting to quote data. Here's just one example here. So this was somebody who was in Kim's group. She has a Facebook group, but it explains why data. So this person was responding to me, but explain why data shows Chris Watts didn't climb the stairs at Survey. Puts him out of dumping them, as in dumping the children. Okay, so Lana had presented this data that because Chris Watts' iPhone and his iWatch didn't show him climbing stairs, it couldn't have been him. And I argued back and said, well, surely he knew what he was doing. He just left his phone and watched in the truck. So the mind boggles. But these people started using Lana's data to form their own arguments. But prior to her, we'd never spoken of data. The thing that I would really love to speak about is the horrific impact these creators are having on people, the families, the people involved directly in this case. I'm not sure if you guys followed it. I really tried not to because I was really outraged by it. But Lana had this whole thing that Shanann's friend, Nicole Atkinson, was somehow involved in some way. She classed it as she was lying to law enforcement. And we've seen Nicole face a lot of hate since this first happened anyway, but just recently she's been getting more and more. Just a couple of days ago, Nicole posted a really lovely update on her own private Facebook. Family time and self-time is so important. Okay, that was her post. Some really beautiful photos of her children playing on a children's playground, just really innocent. You know, this is a woman who's been through so much, including cancer and health scares, and her children have also had illness. A really, really amazing, lovely woman. And one of the top comments from a totally anonymous follower with no pictures or anything, just a blank profile, she left this comment. Do you still remember the case of the death of your late friend Shanann Watts? I still remember it, and it breaks my heart to know the beautiful daughters are victims. And I think she went on to talk about Chris Watts. But this is just a regular 2.5 years later day when Nicole is out enjoying her family time. She's already stated in interviews that she never isn't thinking about what happened in August 2018. But does she really need to be reminded of it? This was just one example that I found. She did actually respond, and she just said, do you wake up and think to yourself, I'm going to be, quote, that person today? Let me get one thing clear here. I will never forget that day, or my friend, or her beautiful babies. But for those of you that think it's necessary to come on my Facebook and comment about it because you think I've forgotten, because I live my life, if you do, I will block you. Not because I want to forget, not because I don't know, but because I deserve to live in peace. Luckily, there were nearly 340 comments in support of her, so she at least knows it was one random crazily unkind person who reached out to her. But I mean, why should she receive that kind of abuse? And this is one of many. Since Lana started talking about her in this great detail, I've seen her hate intensify. The thing that if you want to face the most horrific horror zone, I would strongly recommend not doing this, but I did, part of the research process, is have a dive into Reddit. Okay, so there was a whole thread. There's this most horrific, it's called What's Off Topic, and literally it's just literally smash Shanann with a hammer every minute of every day. So they wanted to know, they posted theories on why NA freaked out so early that morning. You know, why she was raising the alarm so early. Well, obviously her friend was pregnant. Her friend had been very sick the whole weekend in Arizona. She was really concerned about her friend. The flip-flops that she wore every single day were inside the front door. The car was there, everything. There were lots of reasons why she was freaking out. And one of the comments, I think NA and Sandy, as in Shanann's mum, were freaking out because they thought SW had done something to the girls and herself. I believe the CPS rumors, and I think once Sandy and NA put it together that the car was in the garage and the girls were not at school, coupled with SW's behavior over the weekend, they freaked. And this got 46 upvotes, which is kind of a badge of honor for these kind of people. And all these people underneath, yes, I agree. So this is the kind of people that are involved in this case. I mean, how do they reach such conclusions? I mean, I had a discussion, I'll call it that, with a Chris Watt supporter. I said, if it was true about the CPS charge, why would Chris have used his first ever excuse of what happened that day when he first came home for the welfare check? Why would he use the reasoning that he had left Shanann with the children all home alone when he drove off to Survey? I mean, obviously we know the reality, but this is what he was using as his, you know, his truth that she was going to take the children off. He didn't even know where. If there was an active CPS charge, surely you would be concerned and you would want to know where your children were. I mean, he wasn't concerned. We know the reality of what he'd already done, but he was using this. He was using this as a plausible reason why Shanann was missing. So if there had been a CPS charge, why did he leave them all home alone? Because the charge is that Shanann was not allowed to be left alone for, I think the charges, they say, more than 90 minutes, because here's proof that there was no such CPS charge. So that's one of the things that I really wanted to debunk this evening, because that one really frustrates me, that they still keep talking about this CPS charge. Okay, where are we? Where's the next thing that happened in this crazy case? Let me just catch up 1 second. Okay, so basically we then have more of this narrative of poor Bella and poor CC. This again is on is on Reddit. I hope Bella is up there with her long flowing curls, just like she always wanted. And then somebody, did SW keep Bella's hair short for a reason? No, she didn't. Sandy was a hairdresser, and it's kind of like a bit of an old wives' tale. If you cut sort of thinning hair, that it may thicken up. And if you look at all the most recent photos of Bella, her hair was growing really well. She was having her hair slides. It was thickening up. So she did have exceptionally fine hair. She was a beautiful little girl, and her hair definitely was growing. So that was another thing they love to talk about. One person here, I really could not believe this. Just wanted to find this one comment because it was so shocking. According to what some people have seen, her reasoning was it just didn't grow. Some others say it gave Bella a more sickly look, which could have benefited her Munchausen by proxy. That's another huge accusation that they love to make. I think I read an amazing debunk on that. Normally, they would stick by their children and never let them out of their sight. So it didn't really make sense that they were always in daycare for that kind of mother to have that charge. So yeah, that was another thing that the haters love to talk about. What we're going into next is this idea that Shannon knew that her marriage was over. Okay, so this is just a general. This is kind of run-of-the-mill general. This is not really. This is just a normal run-of-the-mill group. I wouldn't class this as hate. It's just a general kind of observation. Oh, we can't say that. All problems issue were Chris's fault, according to most people in this group. If you dare insinuate that Shannon did anything wrong during her 34 years on Earth, you are either a victim basher or believe that she deserved to be murdered. Oh, and don't forget that you are not perfect either. It's sad that people are so closed-minded. I always think the haters use this as their kind of get out. Of course, she didn't deserve to be murdered, but then they can go on to say the most outrageously cruel, horrific things. But of course, we didn't wish her dead, but they somehow think this is their get out. So yeah, that's one of the more mild comments. And that was just a standard group, not anything to do with the hate groups. What's been really interesting is the way that Frankie, Shannon's brother, has dealt with the haters. I mean, he gets a lot of abuse. He just made a really, really nice sort of, video update, and he's made posts about supporting his mother and all these kind of things. And in his most recent live, he looked really healthy. He looked like he'd been enjoying some home cooking. He looked as if he was in a really good place. And he got a top comment 3 hours after he posted. This person by the name of Catherine. Did you stop doing drugs because you put some pounds on? ? So this is the kind of thing. I mean, even if somebody has some addiction, A, it's none of your effing business, and B, I'm sure if somebody is trying to put it behind them or cope with something or deal with it, they don't need you little haters to run out trotting this nonsense on their public social media platforms. This is one of the milder ones. I mean, he does block a lot of people, but just recently he's started to highlight them. So he wants us, the regular people who follow him, he wants us to see what he has to put up with every day. I'm just going to catch up with your comments here. D Irish, there were definitely no CPS. It was never mentioned throughout this discovery. Yeah, and exactly. And Chris never ever mentioned it ever. Yeah, people are saying here they looked into it. I mean, we saw all the paperwork that was addressed to Chris in the prison. I mean, the charge was opened because of him, because of what happened to his children, but it was nothing to do with Shanann. It definitely didn't happen before. There was only a case after the sad deaths of the children. Where are we now? Yeah, absolutely. It was open for their deaths and then closed. I mean, somebody did a really great post, and they absolutely, you could sadly see two children of the same age in the same area on the register, and it was linked to their murder. It was nothing to do. It actually stated no prior CPS involvement. They don't use actual names, but it was so coincidental that two children of the same age, of the same date of passing, were listed on this register. So yeah, I think that one was definitely debunked. So somebody is saying here, my family is social work and has read through those papers. There is absolutely no notification in any way, shape, or form prior to their deaths. Yeah, I think we can all agree on that. I mean, we've all looked into this. I have no reason to state that it's just an opinion. It's an actual fact. There was no case. So I'm really pleased that a lot of you guys have been able to agree with my thoughts on that. Okay, so the next thing that's just absolutely blown my mind is I think that Lana was probably going to move on to this if she'd have stayed involved in the case, or she may still talk about it. But they actually believe that Shanann knew about the mistress. So there was just one thread that I picked up. So they're just anonymous people. It could be anybody. They are quite large haters, actually. But anyway, I'll just read it through. She knew because she was in his phone. Yes, she definitely knew. She even knew her name. Yes, and she was drunk as a skunk and in a state of mind of a person who was losing absolutely everything. So this is obviously the thought that Shanann knew about the mistress, which, I mean, she certainly didn't. Chris has actually stated that he never told her about the mistress. So, I mean, we can't believe him, but I don't think that she definitely didn't know. She was suspicious that there could have been another woman, but she didn't know her by name, and Chris denied it. I mean, he was such a coward, he never admitted it. So I do not think Shanann knew. The only time it could have been discussed is just prior to her death, but I don't think he would have told her, because she would have been so appalled and disgusted, and I don't think he likes people thinking badly of him. So yeah, I don't actually believe this. And what was really interesting, I found some old texts, messages of Cindy, and she states, we didn't know of any problems until the last day he came to see us. We were shocked, but I did think, hallelujah, he's seen the light. I did say, please stay here. Don't go back, because I was worried what she would do to him. Wow. Hallelujah. So yeah, so even Cindy's confirming that this idea that everybody knew that they were going to be getting separated, it definitely wasn't a fact. He may have confided in his family that they were having problems, and that he may have even told them about the mistress, but he certainly didn't tell Shanann. If we look at the morning of Shanann's flight to Arizona, she sent Chris a text message. Good morning, honey. Sorry to make you wake up twice today. I didn't want the alarm going off. We are all checked in and everything. It's already a madhouse here. Enjoy the girls. And then she goes on to say, thank you for everything last night. I miss and love you so much. I'm still in shock. We are having a little boy. I am so excited and happy. I really thought it was another girl. Thank you for letting me hold you this morning. It felt good. Your letter is on the counter. Have a great time with the kiddos. They truly missed you. Love you, baby. Send me pics. Okay, so this is literally days before she would be brutally murdered by her husband. Does this sound like the woman who thinks her marriage is over? Chris had been gaslighting her, lying to her, manipulating her for 6 weeks. He obviously wanted her out of the way that weekend because he had to make his plans. He was meeting the mistress for the famous salmon dinner. Shanann did not want to go on that trip. She was not feeling well. The pregnancy was she was really struggling. She was really struggling. She did not want to go. There's no way she would have left if she had had any inclination that her marriage was over. She did know that they were having problems and that obviously Chris was saying they were no longer compatible, but she left him the self-help book, and she also wrote the letter when she admitted that, okay, she would have to build roads with his family, that she acknowledged, that they had issues, but she flew off to Arizona so happy because she felt that things had took a turn for the better. She described to friends, okay, he's not back fully, but I'm getting Chris back. She was getting some pointers that things were going to be okay. He agreed to the romantic weekend away. I mean, it was total gaslighting. He was totally destroying her before he finally did destroy her. But yeah, that was pretty illuminating to me that she sent him that text message. He actually deleted that message. It wasn't actually found on his phone, so it shows what he thought of it. It was found on Shanann's phone, but not on his phone. Okay, what I want to talk about next is the trolls in this case. It's kind of next level. I mean, you get it in all fandoms, you get it in the political spectrum, but in this particular case, it definitely has become a bit of a sport, and they are really quite vengeful. And I've been on the receiving end of them, so I can kind of speak from experience. Just recently, there was an infiltration of some of the accused members and the founders. They hit one of the regular groups. They somehow got into this group, and one of them, she put up a post. It's extra shiny in that group. Sunglasses emoji. Watch out for the troublesome twins in there. And then she named 2 people. For their privacy, I'm not gonna mention them, but they were literally targeted, and they were told that they were in there. And then I won't give her full name, but somebody by the name of Kitty said, "Get in there, GF, get in there, girlfriend." So they were literally treating this like a big game. Here are these shiners that we can go and target and harass. So they literally are trolls, and not only that, but haters as well. Then this Kitty character herself, all I would say is that she was involved with the accused group. She posted a picture of my family last Christmas, and she she blocked me. A friend sent me the screen grab. She wished me a shitty shiny Christmas. I had a wonderful Christmas. Thank you so much, Kitty. And sorry for the swearing. Sorry about that. Yeah, so she also got herself in this group. Think and believe what, spelt WATT, what you will, facts are facts. The wake of Sharon left so many victims, regardless of what occurred on the August 13th. Prior, she was insidious in destroying people. Thank goodness the admins got all of these people totally booted quite quickly, but they were in this group spreading their hate. And as I pointed out, this was an orchestrated strike. They came in to cause trouble and to target people because their own group got totally closed down by Facebook. They got so many strikes, in the end it got totally closed down. What I want everybody to remember is what actually happened in this case. I mean, if I mention Serby, the disposal site, I know that you'll instantly picture that site. I know that we've all seen the absolute tragic dirt ditch of a grave that Chris Watts just tossed his wife and his future son. I don't need to show you a picture. It's in your mind. We've all seen these images. We'll never, ever, ever forget the image of the first responders having to go into those tanks. Imagine the trauma of everybody involved. Imagine those poor guys, what they had to do. I mean, I'm not going to go in graphic detail because we've all read the reports, and it's just so horrific and so sad that it's good to know what happened, but I don't want to be ghoulish and focus on it here because we've all read it. Just the image is enough for me. It brings back all the horrific words and descriptions that I've read about this case. And when the Watts complain and moan and make this orchestration of hate for the victims, just think where Chris is and think where Shanann and her children are. I mean, they are in graves. I mean, a beautiful, beautiful setting, but that is where they are. They can't have a Zoom call or letters. They can't communicate with their family in the way that Chris can. Thank goodness Sandy is quite spiritual, so, you know, she has got her connection. But for the Watts to make any kind of comparison on what they're facing, yes, at least they can still visit Chris. They can have a Zoom call with him. You know, they can still have contact with him. Those photos of their resting place of this family, it's always so beautifully maintained, but how heartbreaking. It always brings the case, just the absolute tragedy of what actually happened all over some crazy mistress and Chris thinking that it was his only way out. This is something that I wanted to read to you. If anybody anywhere knows how we could get a message to Cindy, this was just a really random comment that really resonated with me, and I just wonder what you guys think. So this is just from in one of the random groups. Cindy, you need to speak with professionals who can guide you through this, not YouTube channels. You have suffered a shocking loss. Maybe general public sympathy is not with you because your first expressions were of anger towards Shanann, and people did not understand that in the face of what Chris did, but that doesn't detract from what you personally have suffered. Your hurt still exists, but you need to separate your hurt from your anger. And this isn't the place to do it. You need extensive professional help. I just agreed with that so much. That is exactly what I think. I mean, we can never put ourselves in the Watts' shoes. It's a tragedy. You know, they lost their family members as well. And Chris is never going to get out of prison. So they have had a profound loss. And I don't want to rub salt in the wounds. I'm not a fan of the Watts. I think they've dealt with this in the most horrendous way. But I just wish that they could stop and just take a different path, because they're trapped in the cycle of grief, denial, anger, and they're never, ever going to recover unless they can move past that. They need to accept and then go from the spotlight and start to heal. They've got to stop this cycle of taking these spokespeople and sprouting all this nonsense. Nobody outside the community is interested. The general public know of this murder, or they don't know about it, but they would all agree, you know, Chris Watts is a monster and needs to rot in jail. You know, the reason the Watts continue to come here to YouTube and Facebook is because they have a captive audience, and they somehow think if only they can persuade enough people to believe them that Chris was wonderful, this golden child, and could never harm a fly, and dreadful Shanann did everything. it wasn't Chris's fault, it was Shanann. Let me highlight why. They need to drop this narrative. It's 2.5 years. It's boring. It's horrendous. It's just so crass and naff. And it's so disrespectful to their grandchildren. Okay, they may not have liked Shanann, but surely they loved their grandchildren, because I'm even starting to question that. I mean, they've just collaborated with Lana. She definitely was mocking the grandchildren. So we have to ask ourselves what's really going on with that family. Just to kind of wrap this up with some more positive news, I'm actually a really huge fan of Shanann's parents. I really do feel that they've handled this with such grace and dignity. They stood up on sentencing day and first off spoke of how much they loved Chris like a son and brother. They didn't bash him. Obviously, they called him a monster because he absolutely annihilated their beloved family members. But they've always tried to conduct themselves with dignity and grace. And of course, I know there have been some issues and some people, have been a little bit upset. But the overall feeling from that family is one of good. I mean, imagine how they cope every day. I can't even comprehend what they've gone through. So I was really, really happy to see that Sandra Rusak has launched her new cookery videos. She's got her own channel, and there's a really, really beautiful upload from yesterday, and it's little Bella having lessons from her granny. It's titled, "Here's the time I taught my Bella Marie to make pigs in a blanket." And it's just that little recipe of wrapping a sausage in pastry as if it's a little blanket, and the wonder on Bella's face. It's a really cute little video. I'll link this in the description of this video when we finish. So yeah, I wanted to just end this today by thinking about the people who are no longer on this earth. Just look at the picture on the screen here. They're the people that I want to focus on. They had a really beautiful chance of life, and it was all taken away from them. And the whole family on Shanann's side have been absolutely devastated. I mean, their immense pain needs to be considered, and I really, really hope that just every single day, one or two haters can just fade away. And I want the machine of propaganda, the Watts, to just stop. It's time. It's going to be 3 years in August. It's time to stop now. So guys, I don't really like to make my lives too long. I really so appreciate all your time this evening. This is a new channel. We need to grow. I need to ask you if you think anybody could kind of be interested in this angle, which is totally 100% pro Shanann Watts. I'm trying to be understanding of the Watts family, but it's a challenge because I'm looking back and seeing so many things, and their actions are causing so much hate. Anyway, I'm going to plan another live, and I really hope that you can join me again. I wanted to thank everybody for your time this evening. I really, really appreciate it. Your time, is exceptionally precious, and you've given me nearly an hour and a half of your time. Sorry, I went a bit over tonight, but I had quite a lot to discuss. I hope you got something out of this live, that you found it interesting, that you don't think that I'm too much of a shiner. I'm actually quite proud of being a shiner. So I think it's quite great that we're over on the sunny side, in the sunlight. I don't want to be one of those dark souls talking about and bashing a lovely dead woman and mocking children. So yeah, let's keep shining, as they say. And thank you all so much. I really appreciate all the support. And yeah, please subscribe. And I'm going to hopefully make this a weekly event, because there's so much to talk about. I'm going to read through all your comments and pick up any feedback. So if you have anything, good, bad, indifferent, just please give me your comments, anything technically that wasn't working so I can improve it for next time. I'll definitely get the screen share fixed. You may, if you notice up in the corner, powered by StreamYard, I think I have to actually pay to go to the next level so we can have these facilities. But yeah, we got through it. Sorry I couldn't share the pictures, but I know most of you would know them by heart. Okay, have a wonderful, wonderful evening, daytime, wherever you are. And once again, can't thank you guys enough for all the support. Have a wonderful day. Take care. Thank you.